This is in for repair a Craftsman 917.387610 Eager 1 22-inch push mower. This was manufactured on March 14th of 2002, making it 23 years old at this point. Hello everyone, Big Allen Cox. Welcome to the shop. This is a cool classic to have in for a good refurbish. This mower is about a 6.5 out of 10 condition, I would say. I haven't seen any rust through on it, which is a big plus indeed. This mower being manufactured in 2002, this era of Craftsman mower was manufactured by AYP, or American Yard Products, which is a division of Husqvarna actually. The quality of this mower new was probably 40 to 50% better than the Craftsman made now. This mower has a steel stamped deck which will last a very long time, just a classic simple design that can be maintained and serviced to last for as long as you can get parts. You can rebuild the engine, get a new blade, air filters, carburetors, new brake cable, whatever you need in parts is available to keep this machine running basically. You can mow till the wheels fall off, then replace them and mow some more. According to the owner, this mower's been sitting around a number of years, and he's decided he wants to use it again. However, it will not run continually. He stated he sprayed starter fluid into the carburetor and it barked off, but after adding fuel he could not get it to run. Now seeing this carburetor and primer bulb set up to me says Tecumseh engines. Tecumseh would manufacture engines for brands and sell them on their equipment under their brand name sometimes. I think Sears only wanted the Craftsman name on this machine. I have verified with this tag that this is a Tecumseh manufactured engine, the model number being 143.024200 tells the story. The 143 is the Tecumseh model 4.25 horsepower vertical shaft engine, which is very cool. Tecumseh engines are cool to me. Jason J.J. Cruz Johnson might tell you Tecumseh is no good, but I've had good luck with Tecumseh engines personally. I have a lawn boy and an Aaron's with Tecumseh engines older than this thing, and they're still running great. If you look out after the maintenance on them, they are very good engines. Check out this massive mud dauber nest up under the front of this engine here. Probably one of 3 or 4 I may find on this machine. He did say it had been sitting around a number of years, and I believe that. It probably had a fuel issue, got parked. Usually if I can't remember the last time it's run, it's been 3 to 5 years or more. Okay, checking the fuel tank. Wow, somebody peed in there. Lemonade, anyone? Wow, the smell of that fuel. Doesn't even smell like gas. That's not good. Yeah, that confirms the 3 to 5 year thing. I can imagine what the inside of that carburetor may look like. That's one rank gas smell. If you wanted to be alone in a crowd, you could certainly splash some of that on. Checking in the air filtration department, these have an element contained in this housing. Turn counterclockwise to release the housing. This air filter needs to be replaced, so I will order one of those. Alright, checking the oil. It has some in it. Pitch black. That's where the smell of the fuel went. Definitely needs to be changed out. Alright, taking a look underneath. Now that's not the worst I've seen by any means, but could use a good cleanup. Reseal with some Rustoleum. There appears to be a few miles of twine wrapped around the engine shaft there. There's no rust through. That blade looks fairly good. I don't see any chunks missing out of it. Doesn't look bent or anything. Not too awful bad. If it'll bark, it's got spark. Owner says this engine will bark off, so we know it's got spark if that's the case. He said he sprayed starter fluid in the intake and then tried adding fuel, but no continual run. If he added fuel to the crap that was already in that tank, that'd have been a waste. Always drain old gas before you start an engine. I pretty much know the carburetor's not working. I can get a replacement for it, or I can rebuild it with new parts. I don't know if just a good clean out would do it, but it's gonna have to come off of there so I can get a better look at what's going on with it. A 5/16 will take this shield off. That shield has a chunk missing out of it. There are two nut and bolt setups that mount the carburetor to the intake. To make life easier, and because I need to purge the tank and do some other maintenance stuff, I'm going to remove the tank and the engine cover. A 5/16 socket will remove 3 bolts here on the top of the tank. Take off the oil cap, and with those 3 bolts removed, the tank should slide right off the top of the engine. Now remove the connected fuel line by releasing the holding clip. I'm going to remove the air filter mounting plate by removing 2 Phillips head screws. Certainly could use a good cleanup. This is a 3/8 socket to take this top cover off. These 2 bolts are 5/16. A final bolt here will release this oil fill tube. Then the cover should lift off. Tecumseh, 4 1/4 horsepower. Kind of dirty, needs to be cleaned out and blown out. All that dirt and debris back there. Okay, I got a 7/16 wrench here. I'm gonna try to get this carburetor off. This bolt on the other side here is difficult to get to. I'm using the box end of my wrench here, and once it's loose I should be able to work it off there with my fingers, I hope. I'm I'm going to actually just leave that back bolt in there that holds that governor spring set up there. I don't want to risk breaking or stretching that spring out. Now I can remove the throttle arm from the governor mount here, and then I can release the arm from the throttle plate on the carburetor. Then pull off this vent tube. And this, my friends, is your typical Tecumseh carburetor. Hopefully this one isn't too awful bad, considering that's some really rank fuel in that gas tank. In fact, it's spunked up the whole shop here. A can of NAPA engine degreaser and a water hose might be in order for this engine. Check out this apartment complex the dirt daubers have constructed under the front of the engine here. Amazing. It looks like chocolate frosting on a cake. I'm going to blow off the engine with some compressed air as a preliminary step and try to get most of the loose debris and dirt off the engine. Get the cooling fins clear, and then probably a degreaser spray and wash off. One just about needs a bobcat to demolish this palace. Now that's what you call social engineering. I'm demolishing this structure that appears to have run the entire underspan of the engine here. Final resting place for some of them, I see. NAPA engine degreaser will get your engine clean enough to serve the family dinner on tonight. More like I could set a paper plate on there and enjoy a grilled cheese. Wash day, man. Nothing clean. It might not be fixed, but it's different, as Kevin says on Junkyard Digs. He also says, let's have a beer about it. Is looking better. Probably my two personal favorites on YouTube are Shango066 and Junkyard Digs, because they bring all the stuff back to life I seen as a kid and grew up with. There's certainly nothing on television anymore. Now, if the engine will run, it'll certainly be happier with all of this out of it. Incredible. A lot of water in that. I can't begin to tell you how that smells. The gas lid is in fairly good shape. I don't see anything wrong with that. I'm going to flush this tank thoroughly with water. Perfectly fine to do this. Afterwards, I will blow compressed air into the lid and try to get out as much of the leftover water as possible. These tanks do have baffles in them, so it'll take a while to dry them out. So to help that along, I'll set it in the sun for a day, and it'll be as good as new. Now I'll give the tank a thorough air blowout. That looks pretty good. I'm going to put it out in the sun. I'm going to go ahead and drain the oil now before I turn it over to do the underneath maintenance stuff. That way, no worries with that. You should change the oil in your mower engine every season. Check it before you use it. These engines will use some oil, especially the older they get. Okay, I think that's the majority of the oil out of there. I'm going to cap that back off and then we can work on the underside. Well, this underside's kind of cruddy. It ain't the worst I've ever seen. We may be able to save this blade here. 9/16 socket will take this blade off. I was going to use the impact wrench if I had to. I don't like doing that on these bolts because it rounds them off. Okay. Keep our hardware together here. The blade is actually being held on by all this twine. Let me get all that cut off of there. An incredible mess. That blade's not too awful bad. Oh, this is a lot. Insane amount. Well, let's spend the next 30 minutes getting all that off of there. Wow. I was thinking about spaghetti for dinner tonight. It's just a stiff wire brush. I'm going to take this and knock all this debris off of the deck. This is the total of the crud I cleaned from under this deck, plus this bonus prize. Just some flat black spray paint from Rustoleum, seal this bottom up. I've used my stiff wire brush on this blade and painted it. It's actually in great shape. It really just needs a little grind on the edges with the angle grinder, and it will be good to go, I think. The blade is refurbished and looking good. The sharpened side of the blade will angle up towards the lawnmower deck. Now I can go back on with the washer and bolt set up. This is a 9/16 bolt. I'm going to tighten that up good and snug. Looks a lot better under there. This deck is in really decent shape. Sometimes those thin metal pieces that run around the front and back can be rusted slap out, but these look really good. You want to keep those areas cleaned out in the front and back to keep those good to go as long as possible. The easier it rolls, the easier it is on you. I'm going to remove the wheels and clean and lubricate the axles as well as the height adjusters. In its 20 plus years, I'm sure it's never been done. He actually told me today this thing's been sitting for 10 to 12 years. That's a while. He did say it barked off, it better run. Pop off this cover with a screwdriver, and the 9/16 socket will take off the nut that holds the wheel on. That dry old grease needs to come off the axle. The height adjuster looks pretty good. Does need some lubrication. Our second mud dauber house. Not quite as big as the first one. Take a piece of sandpaper and strip off the dried grease and dirt from the axle. Then I will spray it off with some NAPA parts cleaner. Then you'll want to wipe that off dry with a shop towel. I have here some NAPA wheel bearing grease. You can use general purpose grease if you like. This is what I like. I'm going to spread that around the axle. Like I said before, wash day, man, nothing clean. I'll go above and beyond and wash the wheels off. These are really due for replacement. Not so much wear on the outside, but the center hubs are somewhat worn on these wheels. Makes it a little wobbly, but they are still functional. There goes the guest house, making a mud hole in the sink. Passes my inspection. This is PB Blaster lubricant. I'm going to spray this on the height adjuster. Then I'll work it in. Makes it easier to adjust the height when you need to. It's a good idea to actually do this a few times during the season. I'm going to get the wheel dried off somewhat and get that back on there. The wheel is ready to go back on. A 9/16 is the size of the nut that holds the wheel on. I'm going to tighten that down until it stops. That's what I was talking about with the wheel hub wear there. Now, these fancy covers probably looked great when the mower was new. I sprayed this one off and it looks about 15% better. Check this out, yet another mud dauber nest in this wheel. They were building a resort in this machine. And that is our wheel height and height adjuster maintenance. All 4 have been done, and we'll have fun till Mama takes the Craftsman away. This is going to be an awesome running machine. I've got the gas tank cleaned out. It's all aired out and dried out and ready to go. The top cover is cleaned out and I lubricated the pull start. I'm going to lubricate this brake stop control with a little PB blaster. Much better than it was sticking. A 13/16 will remove this plug. I just want to inspect it, make sure everything's alright with it. That's an auto light plug actually. Actually don't look too bad. Piece of sandpaper here, I'm just going to clean in between the contact there. Refurbished. Coming along, I'm still waiting for the carburetor kit, intake gaskets and air filter to come in, so I'll pick back up on this Craftsman as soon as my parts order arrives. Yep, hurry up and wait. Okay, a metric 13mm was the best thing I could find to fit to take this bowl off. This nut also acts as the main jet and fuel passage. This one is really very cruddy and needs to be cleaned. You may be able to see the tiny holes where the fuel flows through. Now the bowl can be removed. Sometimes you have to encourage these things. There's that rank gas smell right in the face. Terrible, terrible. If this were smell-o-vision, you'd go running. Geez, crud city. I'm spraying some NAPA carburetor and choke cleaner into the bottom of this bowl. I'm just gonna let that sit in there and soak a while. That's very nasty. All this needs to be sprayed and cleaned out. There's not really that much to these carburetors. You mainly want to get the fuel flow passages cleaned. You can use a good carb spray like this NAPA carburetor and choke cleaner. Probably a few days before I'm sick of doing this, I'll get a parts cleaner. The intake gasket's baked on this thing. starting to look a little better. I'd like to just soak it in some gasoline overnight or something. This is a pretty important jet to spray out. Right down in here you'll see this hole. I'm going to get my straw in it, and it's going to spray out that main jet. This is going to go through that primer bulb circuit. Nice, very nice. I've also sprayed out my tube, and I'm going to reinsert that. I'm going to remove this fuel line and spray out the main fuel inlet that runs to the inlet chamber, where the metering level and float bowl act to regulate the amount of fuel in the bowl. I'm cleaning the throttle shutter now with some cleaner and the shop rag. Well, that's as clean as I could get it. I could spend another week cleaning that. Or I could fix a lawnmower. Now this may have been the main clog up in this carburetor, the bowl nut passage here. You can see it really, it's solid packed in there. Just blast it out with some cleaner. After a trip to the bench grinder, this thing is great now. Look at that. Very nice. You can see the passage holes now. A beauty to behold. This is the idle restrictor screw. In most cases it'll be all the way in on this type of setup. This one has that same crud seen all over the carburetor. I'll get that cleaned off and make sure that passage is clear. This is a carburetor cleaner tool. I'm going to run this wire cleaner through the passage here and make sure all that crud is out of there. Now I'm going to spray out the idle mixture passage. That passes my inspection. Mail call, parts delivery day. In this shipment I should have an air filter. Looks like it. Tecumseh intake gaskets. Sweet. Rebuild kit come yesterday. It's still in my office, I think. Lady give me this box of record albums today. Said her daughter left them behind and she wanted them out of the way. Some real toe tappers here. Some compilations. Million Sellers dance hits. Yeah, bring on the Miller and the Dancing Girls. Ernest Tubb and Loretta Lynn. Mr. and Mrs. Used to Be. Sounds like a lot of drama there. Carolina in the Pines by the Southern Comfort Band. Anyone heard of them? They aren't standing in a pine tree orchard. 50 stars of country music crammed into 2 records in high fidelity. I'll add these to my collection, see what kind of shape a few of these are in. This one looks barely played, really. That'll go for $500 on eBay. Decca Records. Now, anytime I see that, reminds me of growing up. All the albums and 8-tracks I used to see with that label. That's been played a few times and no sleeve. I'll have to go through these much appreciated gifts of music here. This is the rebuild kit, and I'm not replacing every single part in this bag. The Welch plugs are just fine in this carburetor. I don't replace those unless I can visibly see they've been leaking, and I don't think these have. I'll mainly be using the float bowl O-ring and the inlet valve and the spring attached to that, and I'll probably use the float bowl nut gasket. Install the inlet valve on the clip located on the underside of the float here. Then I can drop that down into the seat. Then I can install the float shaft. The spring is working correctly and it looks good. You can see the float and the inlet valve are working correctly. Now you can blow into the fuel inlet and test your setup. When the float is down, it will block air, and when you pull up on it, it should release air. Place the float bowl on the O-ring. I'll add my new nut gasket from the kit. A 13mm wrench will reinstall the bowl nut. Just snug it down and let the O-ring do most of the sealing. Otherwise you can break that nut. Then you might as well drink a 6-pack of Miller, because you ain't doing nothing else. Reinstalling the idle resistor screw now. Going all the way back in like it was. If I need to adjust it later, I will. Certified Big Al small engine rebuilt. Okay, we're going back on with our carburetor now. We want to make sure we got our intake gasket in place there. We're going to be in this hole right here on the throttle plate. Hook back up to our governor there. Now I need to get my nuts back on. I'll be using a 7/16 and a 3/8 to tighten these bolts back up. On this side, I'm gonna have to just get up in there like that, up under the other side there. Pull that throttle back out of the way there. Now some Johnsons are going to say, Al, why didn't you take the whole intake mount off? Well, if I do that, I have to remove the muffler first, which the bolts can be tricky on a mower this age, and I don't want to risk monkeying up the spring and linkage on the governor. Plus the engine and tank needed cleaning, so I had to remove those anyway, which allowed me access to remove the carburetor. Just a little more tricky with the right bolt on the intake mount. Okay, I think I'm all tightened up there. Next I will reinstall the air filter housing mounting plate and make sure the grommet seal is in place, and there's a gasket that sits on the inside of that plate. Two Phillips head screws will mount the plate. Okay, now I'm going to reconnect the fuel line. This is our new breather hose. New breather hose installed. Okay, we need to get our new air filter in. Looks like it. Out with the old. That is rather crusty and nasty. In with the new. Back onto the mounting plate and turn clockwise. That'll lock it in. .3/8 socket on these bolts in the back on this top cover. A5/16 for our bolts on the front of the cover. And then a 5/16 nut reinstalls our oil fill tube. Now we'll go back on with the fuel tank. Three 5/16 nuts to reinstall the tank. Two 5/16 nuts will reinstall this muffler shield, or what's left of it. I was actually just looking at this here. At some point this mower took a pretty good hit in the front. That's what broke this muffler shield. It's a pretty good dent right there. So she took a sucker punch right there. Time to replace the engine oil now. The engine holds about 20 ounces of oil. So that'll be the biggest part of this 24-ounce container of quality NAPA 10W30. I'll pour in around 20 ounces, then I'll check the level. Looks like it's right on the money. I'll check it again later to make sure. I'm going to add in some fresh 90 octane pure Citgo fuel from Smitty's One Stop at the corner of Lexington and Westchester in High Point, North Carolina. Running a pure fuel with no ethanol will give you 70% less problems with your fuel system. I'm also going to add in just a little bit of Marvel Mystery Oil. This will help the engine come back to life and lubricate everything nice. You never want to fill a gas tank if you just performed a fuel service till you know you have no leaks or funny business going on, because if you do, there will be a lot less fuel to deal with running out all over the floor to clean up. Okay, the moment of truth. If everything we've done is good, I see no reason this mower should not crank. Cold first start, it may take a few pulls here and it may run a little rough at first, but hopefully it will start up. We can see how it runs. This being the same carburetor, the telemetry should be the same as far as the engine speed and governor setup. I'm going to let it run about 10 minutes, warm up. Get a good heat cycle going. It is starting to run a little better. It's clearing up. There's no smoke. The engine's not smoking. There's no gas leaks. Everything looks good. Alright, she started up and ran great. I'm going to let it sit for a while and cool off. and then I'll do a mowing test with it. Okay, it's about 4 hours later. I've got the mower out here. I'm gonna give it a good cold start and see if it'll cut some grass. I think it's doing pretty good. I'd call that a good save from the landfill. A viewer on BitChute suggested I give a breakdown of money, time, and difficulty for a DIYer, so here it is. These are my total expenses for the parts that came out to $64.50. I have about 3 hours of time into this refurbish, and I'd say the rating difficulty on a scale of 1 to 10 with this one, with 1 being easy and 10 being very difficult, I'd say this is a 6.5. Bringing this Craftsman Eager 1 back to life has been fun. Let me and others know about your experiences with an older AYP manufactured Craftsman mower like this one with the Tecumseh 4-stroke. I'm Big Al Cox. Thank you for watching, and thanks to all who subscribe to the channel on BitChute, YouTube, and Facebook. Also have an X account page, but nobody much bothers with me on there. If you're on there, hit me up at Big Al Small Engine if you wish. When new videos drop, I do inform on X. More videos are coming soon, and until the next time, I wish you many blessings from my shop to yours.
There you go.